Look at her again, sitting under that tree like every market day.
That mad woman has been here for years. Nobody even knows where she came from. She's not even talking today.
Make way! Make way! The chief is coming!
The chief has arrived! Long live the chief! 7 market days. You have only 7 market days left. 7 market days and the truth will sit on your throne. Did she just speak? I've never heard her talk before.
Silence!
Your time is ending.
Guards, get her out of my sight!
Why is the chief afraid? What truth is she talking about? 7 market days.
They say madness has no memory. They say a broken mind forgets everything. The pain, the people, the past. But what if the woman everyone called mad remembered every single thing? What if she had been counting the days, quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment the whole world would finally see what she had always known? This is the story of a woman who lost everything, not because of one weak man, but because of a powerful family that decided her life was worth less than a political arrangement. And the secret she carried for 25 years, a secret so dangerous, it had the power to bring down an entire royal bloodline in a single afternoon. Stay with me, because nothing about this story is what it seems. Every market day in the village of Umweze, people came alive. Women balanced baskets of yam and smoked fish on their heads. Children chased each other between the stalls. The smell of pepper soup and roasted corn filled the air. Laughter, noise, life. But at the edge of the market, just beyond the last row of traders, there was a tree. A wide, old neem tree with roots that spread across the red earth like fingers gripping the ground. And under that tree, every single market day, without fail, sat a woman. Her hair was wild and grey, matted with dust. Her wrapper was torn at the edges. Her eyes stared at something only she could see. Children called her names. Women covered their noses when they passed her. Men waved her away like she was smoke. Nobody knew where she came from. Nobody asked. She was just the mad woman at the market. But here is the thing that nobody could explain. Every time Chief Obiora Eze, the most powerful man in Umweze, son of the late great king, the man whose name alone could open or close any door in the village, every time he passed through that market, she stood up. She did not shout, she did not run, she did not beg. She simply stood up, turned her head, and stared directly at him. And Chief Obiora, this man who sat on thrones, this man born into royalty, this man whose father had ruled Umweze with an iron fist, would freeze. His steps would slow, his face would change, the color would drain from beneath his skin. He would look away, bark at his bodyguard to move faster, and leave the market without buying a single thing. Every time, without exception. The villagers noticed. They whispered about it. She is a spirit sent to torment him. He must have wronged someone in the other world. That woman has a curse on her tongue. Nobody knew the real reason. Nobody except Chief Obiora himself and the woman under the tree. 25 years ago, this village had a different name for her. Back then, she was Nkechi, a young woman with a smile that could stop rain, soft-spoken, sharp-minded, the daughter of a hard-working but ordinary family on the outskirts of Umweze. And back then, Obiora was not yet a chief. He was the king's son, Igwe Eze's only male heir, which meant the entire village watched everything he did. Every step he took was a political move. Every relationship he had was a matter of palace business. He had been raised in a compound where nothing was private and nothing was truly his own. And yet, he loved Nkechi. Or at least, he told himself he did. They had met quietly, away from palace eyes, in the way that young people find each other when the world is not looking. He was drawn to her realness, the way she spoke her mind, the way she laughed without calculation. She was everything the palace was not. She trusted him completely. And when she came to him one evening, trembling, eyes full of fear and love, and told him she was carrying his child, he held her hands and told her not to worry. He said he would handle everything. She believed him. She did not know that handle everything meant something very different to a prince than it did to a girl in love.
That same week, Igwe Eze, the old king, Obiora's father, called his son into the inner chamber. There was no shouting, no drama. Just the old king sitting in his carved wooden chair, firelight moving across his face, and a cup of palm wine on the table between them. He told Obiora that arrangements had been finalized. The king of the neighboring clan, Igwe Adimora, had a daughter. Educated, well-connected, the kind of alliance that will double Umweze's political power for the next generation. The marriage had been discussed between the two royal families for over a year. Bride price conversations had already begun. The king looked at his son and said very calmly, "You will marry Adimora's daughter. This is not a request." Obiora fought it. He actually did. And perhaps that is the one thing that makes this story complicated rather than simple. He pushed back. He argued. He told his father there was someone else. He did not use Nkechi's name. He was not that brave. But he made clear he had feelings that were not palace approved. The old king listened patiently. Then he said, "Feelings are for poor men. You are my son. Act like it." For 3 weeks, Obiora said nothing to Nkechi. He went silent the way cowards go silent, not with a goodbye, just with absence. And then his father summoned him again. This time, there were other men in the room. The palace secretary, 2 senior chiefs, and the king's closest advisor, a man named Ichie Nwosu, who had spent 40 years helping the royal family make problems disappear. The old king told his son that the girl had become a problem that needed to be resolved. Obiora stared at the floor. He did not say yes, he did not say no. And in that silence, the men in that room took his answer and went to work. Nkechi never saw it coming. She had been growing worried, yes. Obiora's silence was confusing and painful. But she still believed, in the stubborn way that love makes people believe, that there was a reason, that he would fix it, that the man she knew was still in there somewhere. She was wrong. What came instead was a delegation from the palace council. They arrived at her family's compound early in the morning before the dew had dried on the grass. They said sacred items had gone missing from the village shrine, items of deep spiritual importance, items whose theft was a crime against the entire community. And they said witnesses had placed Nkechi near the shrine on the night the items disappeared. Her family begged. Her mother knelt on the ground. Her father offered everything he had to clear her name. But when the council searched her compound, and they went straight to a corner of the room without hesitation, as though they already knew, they found 2 of the missing items buried beneath Nkechi's sleeping mat. She screamed that she was framed. She told them she was pregnant. She said the child belonged to the king's son, that she could prove it, that she would prove it. The council looked at her with the calm, sealed faces of men who had already made their decision. Because they had. She was banished from Umweze before the sun went down, walked out with nothing but her wrapper, her swollen belly, and the sound of her mother's wailing fading behind her as she crossed the village boundary. Obiora watched from inside the palace compound. He did not come out. What happened to Nkechi after that? Nobody in Umweze knew or cared to know. The story they told themselves was simple. She went mad from shame, wandered into the bush, and was gone. Stories that protect powerful people are always simple. The truth was not simple at all. 25 years passed. Obiora married the Adimora princess as planned. The alliance was everything his father had promised: land, connections, political weight. He rose smoothly into chieftaincy when the old king died, inheriting both the title and the secrets that came with it. He had 4 sons and 2 daughters. His firstborn son, Emeka, was the pride of the entire village. Tall, calm, educated abroad, everyone agreed that when the time came, Emeka would lead Umweze into a new era. And then, one day, quietly, without announcement, a mad woman appeared at the market tree. Nobody connected her to anything. She was just another broken soul. But then, strange things began to happen. It started with Obiora's second son, Chukwuebuka. He left for a trip to Lagos and simply never came back. His phone went silent, his car was found abandoned on the Onitsha Expressway. 1 month later, the third son went missing during a night outing. His friends said he stepped outside to take a phone call and vanished. The village was terrified. People said it was a spiritual attack. The chief's face had changed. Those close to him said he was not sleeping, not eating, not himself. And he would never ever go to the market anymore. Because every time he tried, she was there, standing, staring. Then came the day everything began to crack open. A young woman named Chisom, a journalist from the state capital who had grown up in Umweze, heard the story of the mad woman and the chief. She started visiting the market tree, bringing food, sitting quietly, waiting. For weeks, nothing. But one afternoon, when the market had emptied and the sun was sliding down and it was just the 2 of them under the old neem tree, the woman spoke, clearly, calmly, in perfect, unbroken Igbo. She said, "You have your mother's eyes. She was kind to me once. Sit down." Chisom sat down, and Nkechi began to talk. What came out of that woman's mouth did not sound like madness. It sounded like a testimony. She told Chisom everything: the love, the pregnancy, the silence, the delegation that arrived at dawn, but she did not stop at Obiora. She told Chisom about the old king, about Ichie Nwosu, about the men who had sat in that room and decided her fate like she was livestock to be moved from one field to another. She said, it was never just Obiora. He was weak, yes, but weak men do not banish pregnant women alone. They need powerful men to give them permission. His father gave permission. His council carried it out. They all put their hands on my life and crushed it together. And then she told Chisom the part that made the air go still. When she was banished, she had been 4 months pregnant. She walked until she reached a town far enough that no one knew her face. She had given birth alone in a stranger's house to a baby boy. She nearly died, but she did not die. And when she was well enough to think clearly, she made a decision that would take 25 years to fully deliver. She sent the baby back. She wrapped him carefully in cloth, tied a small note around his wrist with a name written on it, Emeka, and left him at the gate of the one family in Umweze she had trusted before everything fell apart. A family connected to the palace. A family who, it turned out, had privately told the village that Obiora's new wife had recently delivered a baby boy. Except, Chisom had done her research, and palace birth records from that period told a different, quieter story. The wife had been ill, had delivered early, and the child had not survived more than 2 days, a grief they had buried quickly, and filled just as quickly with a baby boy left at a gate in the night who came with a name already attached to his wrist, Emeka. Chisom sat in silence for a long moment. Then she said, very quietly, "You are telling me that Emeka, the chief's heir, the future of the royal house, is your son?" Nkechi looked at her with eyes that were not mad at all. Eyes that were sharp and steady, 25 years deep. She said, "I am not telling you, I am showing you." She reached into the folds of her wrapper and pulled out a small wrapped bundle. Inside were documents, a hospital record from that distant town dated 25 years ago with her name and her son's birth weight. A photograph, young Nkechi holding a newborn, the date visible on the wall calendar behind her. A sealed letter she had written to the family she left him with, confirming the delivery. And one more document, a legal filing she had submitted 16 years ago, far from Umweze, through a lawyer who owed her a debt, establishing a formal claim over her son's identity. She had not activated it yet. She had been waiting. Chisom asked, "What were you waiting for?" Nkechi's answer was quiet but absolute. For them to be able to give him the throne. Because that is when it will hurt the most. That is when the whole world will be watching. That is when the truth will have the most power. She paused. And because the sons who went missing, I know where they are. I did not take them, but I know the people who did. Men your chief's father cheated out of land 20 years ago. Men who have been waiting almost as long as I have. I need to speak before they do, or the truth I carry will get buried in someone else's chaos. 3 days later, the story broke. Chisom had recorded every word. DNA testing was arranged. Lawyers were contacted. Hospital records were cross-referenced with government registration documents. Everything matched. When the story spread through Umweje, first as whispers, then as fact, the village did not know what to do with itself. Chief Obiora denied everything, called it a spiritual attack, called the woman mad, dangerous, a tool of his political enemies. But Emeka, the firstborn son, the future king, the pride of Umweje, went home and looked at his father's face. And he saw something he had never seen there before. Not anger, not denial. Guilt. Old, settled, heavy guilt. He asked one question. Is it true? Obiora opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the floor. The silence lasted 4 seconds. It was the loudest thing Emeka had ever heard. The woman under the tree was not mad. She never was. The madness was a costume, worn every market day for years to hide her identity from being recognized by people in the village, weathering the stones and the insults and the stares, because a mad woman draws no suspicion. Nobody searches a mad woman's wrapper. Nobody worries about what she is recording, gathering, building. She had gone back to that town and found the midwife who delivered her son. She had traced the family member who carried the infant to the palace gate. She had filed legal documents through a system so distant from Umweje that nobody ever thought to connect them to the woman sitting silently under a neem tree. But she had done more than that. She had, very carefully, over many years, tracked down every man who had sat in that room the night they decided her fate. The old king's advisors, the palace secretary, the men who planted evidence in her family's compound. She had statements, she had names, she had a paper trail that ran through 3 states and 2 decades. She had not come back to Umweje to beg. She had come to collect.
The coronation of Emeka did not happen that season. Chief Obiora's matter was referred to both the traditional council and the state authorities. Ichie Nwosu, now elderly, now frightened, gave a statement that confirmed more than he intended to. The 2 missing sons were found alive, held by men who had their own grievances with the Eze family. And Emeka? He came to the market tree the morning after everything became public. He sat down across from the woman the village had mocked and stoned and ignored for years. He did not know what to say. She did not rush him. He looked at her face, really looked, perhaps for the first time, and she looked back at him. He had his father's forehead and her quiet, patient eyes. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then she reached out and placed her hand over his. And Nkechi, for the first time in 25 years, was not the mad woman under the tree. She was a mother looking at her son. Home at last. The village of Mweze will talk about this story for generations, not because of the chief's fall, though it was total and final, not because of the court cases, the documents, or the palace secrets that spilled into daylight, but because of what it proved, that the woman they had thrown away, the woman they stoned and mocked and decided meant nothing, had been the most powerful person in the village the entire time. She simply waited for the right moment to prove it. So the next time you see someone the world has written off, sitting quietly at the edge of things, watching while everyone else looks away, look again. Because silence is not always a weakness. Sometimes silence is a woman building a case, brick by brick, year by year, until the day she is ready to let it fall. Thanks for listening and watching. Let's know your thoughts about this story in the comments section. Subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next video.